I am Vinnie Tortorich. Folks, your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed. It's the Wednesday show. You know what we do every Wednesday? We bring Chris in, whether he wants to come in or not. He's obligated to come in because I think I pay him. So without any further ado, folks, Chris Shaffer. Yeah. Chris.
Vinny.
How is it that Slash looks so damn good, yet he smokes like a chimney in wintertime?
How old is Slash?
I have no idea. We need to look that up. He's got to be at least my age, right?
He's 60 as of a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so that must be when this came out. It says Slash's birthday, and he's up there with Billy Gibbons, and they're just ripping it up with LaGrange, one of my favorite songs of all time. You know, it's funny. I went to a funeral last week, and for one of my old buddies, his father died. A lot of the classmates were there. And I'm looking at them thinking, oh, my God, they look old, which means I look old. I don't look at other people and go, hey, I got them beat. I'll look at them and go, oh, shit, I look way worse than I thought I looked. That's where my brain goes, right? And you look at someone like Slash and you go, okay, well, of course the hair is colored that color and everything. Who knows? He's probably got extensions coming out of that top hat or whatever in the hell he wears. But at some point, he still looks young, right? So I've always said that if you keep doing what you used to do, you're going to keep looking the way you used to look to some degree. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think he falls into that that weird category of people. Like you and I talk a lot about the blue zones, Vinny, and one of the things that people talk about is like, oh yeah, these little Japanese ladies that smoke like chimneys and live to 150, so smoking must not be bad for you. Right? It's like, or maybe it's literally everything else that they're doing, right? They're getting up, they're walking around, and maybe they'd live to 200 if they weren't smoking. But, some people can get away with it and some people can't. We were actually talking about that the other day in the VIP group. Some people can put a little more life into living than other people. And it depends a little bit on your genetics. It depends on what you're doing in your day-to-day. There's a lot of factors that go into that. And if you have Slash money, there's a lot of things you can do to keep looking the way that you used to look.
Yeah. And by the way, you may remember, you might be too young for this one, but rich people, and I had clients, and they were still doing this in the 90s and early 2000s, maybe still. People with what I used to call real money, right? Now they have billions and billions of dollars, but this is back. Like one of my best friends in life happened to be a billionaire. And I'm not talking about Don Coddington. Wait, hang on.
It's the billionaire,
Don.
Okay.
I'm not talking about Don. I'm talking about an actual billionaire, right? And she's one of my closest friends in the world. And she would go off to Switzerland every year or whatever and get blood transfusions, of like goat's blood. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but they're these plasma transfusions where they would replace their blood to stay young. It was a real thing. You used to see it in movies about super rich people. It's like, oh, yeah, he's off in Geneva getting a blood transfusion. They really do that. That's an actual thing, right? You're nodding your head. Do you know anything about this? Or?
Well, so, I started my working life in the tech sector, working for tech companies, investors, and that whole thing, right? The Silicon Valley game. And the joke there is that it's the young blood of interns. Right, you'll get that really healthy-looking 19, 20-year-old kid and say, "Hey, you want to donate some plasma to the founder? You want to make a little bit of extra money on the side? Here's $1,000. Go do a plasma infusion." They're doing it. It's a running joke in Silicon Valley that all of the investors are getting young blood transfusions. And then we had one who was definitely not doing that, and he said his secret to never aging was eating a pint of blueberries a day. That was his thing. And saw him recently after about 15 years, and apparently he looks exactly the same.
Yeah, there's some people that they can do that. They just never change. You know the one, and folks, I'm not trying to be gross here or anything else. This was going around Hollywood. The semen thing. Women were collecting semen to put on their face. Chris, I'm not Google that shit. I need you to Google me right on this one because
I'm
there
going
was
to open an incognito window first because I don't want that in my search history.
yeah, I need you. I don't think you have to go to dark web, but there was a time. Look, when I'm telling you, I talk about everything on this podcast that I saw coming down the pike when I was in Hollywood. And one of them was they were putting human semen on their face to get rid of wrinkles or some. And I think, I don't want to speak out of turn. I want to say that it was like Elton John and some of these people started it. And then once it gets to the Aspen crowd, you know that it's gotten all the way around. Do you see anything on that?
I see a handful of things. I see a lot of adult links. But the thing that is also popping up here, Vinny, and this is an article from Variety.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've seen this one because this is the new version of this. Salmon sperm facials.
I think maybe Anna and I talked about that on the Monday show a couple of years ago. And maybe I brought this up on another show. Now that I'm thinking about it, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so we're taking salmon roe and we're smushing that on our face now, or
Salmon roe is the eggs, isn't it?
yeah, salmon roe is the egg. So I guess the sperm. Well, how do you jerk off a fish? Yeah, that's got to be hard, right?
Or not so hard, depending on how they roll.
Wait, Chris. Chris.
Oh, you meant difficult. You meant difficult. Okay.
Chris, there's a light flashing on and off, and I got to stand up to fix it. So, can you do I'm going to let you do a Pure Vitamin Club ad while I'm doing this. So get to work. Let's see what you got. Go.
So if you haven't checked out the new website over at purevitaminclub.com, you're going to want to check that out. And I think, Vinny, if people don't know about purevitaminclub.com, you must not be paying attention, right? People ask you all the time, hey, if I'm looking for a new multivitamin, or what do you take? We get that question literally on a daily basis. And the answer is whatever we have at purevitaminclub.com. Now, to be fair, there are a few things that we're bringing on board, or at least looking at bringing on board, that you've been a fan of over the last few years that are not there. Yeah. But if you're looking for a general recommendation, you want something that's going to set your foundation the right way, take a look at the multi-cap. The other thing, Vinny, and it's something that I swear by, and everyone that takes it swears by, is the magnesium. And you and I have talked about magnesium in the past. There's a lot of ways to do it the wrong way. Right. But we were talking about, I think it was Beyond Meat a couple weeks ago, and they were shoving a bunch of magnesium, and it's not the right kind of magnesium. It's the kind that makes you have stomach distress, right? Yeah. And there's pros and cons to all the different forms. And what we did over at purevitaminclub.com is create a blend of the best forms in the ratios that you need. And I know, Vinny, we're also coming to the end of summer here, but that doesn't mean you still shouldn't check out Ultra Salt. If you're sweating at all, or you're dealing with cramps, any of those kinds of things, take a look at Ultra Salt. I know Vinny likes to say he reverse engineered sweat, because that's actually what we did. And you and I actually did an episode a few weeks ago on Gatorade's new electrolyte product, which still doesn't come anywhere close to what you get out of something like Ultra Salt. So if you're looking for some of the things that Vinny recommends, or you just want to check out the new site, head over to purevitaminclub.com. We have what you want.
You passed the audition, Chris. By the way, I just want to add this about Pure Vitamin. Some people are going, hey, my zinc capsules aren't filled all the way, right? So should we address that? You're getting the same amount of zinc, but my policy of never being out of a vitamin, just never being out again because of all the trouble we were having under the old administration of running my company, administration or management. I took it over myself, and the first thing I said was, we're never going to be out of a product. And when we got our zinc, the very high quality zinc that we use, when we went to encapsulate, they only have the capsule size up. And I said, the capsule size doesn't matter. Put the zinc in there. We're going to sell it like that until that runs out. So People have sent me a couple of pictures and this and that. No, you're getting exactly the same amount of zinc as you were getting before. If you notice, the capsule's just a little bigger, no big deal. Yes, aesthetically, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but I don't care about aesthetics. I care about your health. So there you have it.
And Vinny, what would most companies do in that situation? In fact, what was told to us that we should do in that situation?
We should put fillers in there to make it look like the capsule is full. And I said that I built my company off of not using fillers. I would rather have that empty space in there. That the other thing, and this is one of the companies told us, it's like, hey, just put a little less. We could put in a smaller capsule, and we could still. It's like, no, we don't lie. We don't lie on the label. We're never going to lie. That's part of that's my commitment. So there you have it. Sorry about continuing on with the commercial, but Chris, what do you have over there? Anything special in the news?
Vinny, you were talking about facials, and one of the things that's been in the news recently is Ozempic face. And I think you saw this post. You may have been the one that sent this to me, but have you seen the thing flying around on Instagram about the new issues with semiglutides and how it's making people blind?
Yeah, I was the one that sent it to you, and I sent it to you to say, Chris, I've looked around. Can you vet this? Because I'm looking at it going, okay, I'm not going to be one of those people. Look, the news does it all the time. If you're a news favoring the right, whenever something comes out, they'll favor that, and the left will say it's all wrong. And if something comes out favors the left, the right will say, I don't like to do that. I want the truth. So when I saw this, here's the thing. This is, they're talking about specifically Ozempic, the semiglutide, right? And they're saying that there's a multi-bazillion-dollar lawsuit and people are going blind without any, like one day you just wake up and you're blind, right? And they're blaming it on Ozempic. Okay, when I see that, I go, okay, that sounds a bit fantastical. I know this is going to sound weird. It's going to sound like I'm talking out of both ends of my mouth. I don't like drugs, right? I don't like drugs to fix a problem when you can fix a problem without the drugs. And I was early money on saying that we will look back on this GLP-1 semiglutide era and say, oh boy, what were we thinking, right? I did not want to be right. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted it to not be this. And I'm hoping that this is not the case, right? Because I have friends and family on this stupid drug. And I don't want to see anyone get hurt. Not whether it's family, friends, or anyone else. I don't want to see anyone get hurt. So this is not, I will not do an I told you so. That's not what I do here. But the bottom line is that there is some smoke. But I asked Chris to vet it really well. Is there fire, Chris?
Yes and no.
Oh,
so
I hate the yes and the no.
I know.
I hate yes and no. Okay, give me the yes first.
So I think in the post they're talking about, oh, there's a $2 billion lawsuit. There's all of these things. It 7x's your risk of this really specific eye condition that causes permanent vision loss, yada, yada, yada. There is no $2 billion lawsuit. There are a bunch of lawsuits against these companies, including some lawsuits specifically around this eye condition and how it's being exacerbated. The problem with this post is that figures lie and liars figure, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you say there's a 7x increase in these lawsuits, well, how many were there before and how long has the drug been around, right? And they're looking at a year-over-year comparison. Well, these things have only really been around for a couple years now. So the first year that they're out, there's not really going to be anything. The next year, there's going to be a handful. The year after that, there's going to be more. And the year after that, there's going to be more, just because there's more people on these drugs. And if someone is successful, then obviously there's going to be more lawsuits or more side effects or any of those kinds of things, right?
Right.
So there's a couple studies that have come out on this, and it's called NAION is the eye disease. I'm not even going to get into the actual medical pronunciation, but essentially it's an eye condition that causes vision loss.
Mm-hmm.
And the target demographic for people who are on semiglutides, specifically Ozempic, are already the highest risk group for this. Typically people with elevated diabetes, extremely high body fat percentage, have a much higher risk of this type of eye disease to begin with. And so, yes, there is a link, but when you look at the studies, it's essentially a difference of one person out of every 10,000 in that group. So is it that? Is it something else that they're doing? There's not really a way to know. But also, there's better ways to do this stuff, right? And so why take that extra little bit of risk? And 1 out of 10,000 doesn't sound like that much until you factor in something like the odds of winning the lottery. And everybody's like, oh, I'm going to win the lottery every time Powerball gets up over $100 million, right? If you're in that group, that's a substantially higher risk than most things in life. And so if you're considering it, it's definitely something you're going to want to keep in mind. But the numbers that are thrown out in this post seem to just be made up, right? $2 billion, 10 million, all of these kinds of things were not substantiated in any way. There are some of these lawsuits going on, and there's some people who are studying this right now. And the real push behind this came from a Danish study where they said people with type 2 diabetes went from 1 in 20 to 1 in 4, which put them at a 25% risk. But most of the other studies that have come out after that show a substantially lower risk of this happening.
Well, and then you have to look at who's doing the studies and what, we always have to go back to that. So I think it's a good place to start, and I think we should keep an eye on it. I'm not going to mention, it's a buddy of mine, but I won't mention a name or anything else here. Remember a couple of years ago with the NFL, everything was CTE. CTE. Like every player had CTE, and turns out it was like 2 players that shot themselves in the chest and said, please study my brain. I think football scrambled my brain. I worried about it. I had a bunch of concussions. You play middle linebacker, every time they say hike, in practice and in games, you're getting your bell rung, or you're ringing someone else's bell, which means you're ringing your own bell. So I worried, oh my God, every time I couldn't remember something, I would go, oh my God, I'm a CTE. They had us all worried shitless, right? And a buddy of mine is an attorney that was, knows something about it. I don't know if his firm did something for the NFL side of it or whatever. And he said the reason that it never went anywhere was there was no proof that all the concussions and everything in the world was causing what they're calling CTE, even though there was a movie about it and all this stuff. And even though now every time one helmet almost glances another helmet in a game, they're, throwing a flag and kicking the guy out and running him off the field. And people are going into the blue tent on stuff that never used to happen before. So I don't know if the NFL is just saying, hey, look, we're concerned about these guys all of a sudden. We'll put them in a blue tent. We're going to check them out. Oddly enough, they all come out of the blue tent and they run right back on the field, right? When you look at the number of guys that come off the field and you can see their bell is completely rung, very few of them end up in the locker room, right? They go in the blue tent, a couple of plays later, Al Michaels is going, he's back in the game, Chris Collinsworth, yeah, he's right back in there. So, they're pretending over at the NFL, and the NFL has a shit ton of money, but I think the Players Union also has a shit ton of money. The bottom line is it never went anywhere, but they had us believing that any kid who started playing football is going to end up with this CTE stuff. Now, I can't tell you end up with a really bad neck and back and everything else, because I suffer from all those things, right? But if anyone should have CTE, it should be me, right? But I don't. Or maybe I do.
Maybe you do.
You work with me on a daily basis, so who knows? But, it's that thing, and this attorney was very convincing. We were having a conversation one day, and he was like, oh, yeah, they couldn't prove any part of it, right? But the media never gets a hold to that part. We just get the salacious headlines. That's why I like to keep this podcast, current and fresh by not going, you see, I told you, semiglutides. I just don't like drugs. People know that about me. The bottom line is, if this drug is able to help people and the side effects are less than, being 500 or 600 pounds, I can make an argument to be on these drugs. I just think we're going down a bad road when there are ways to get out of these situations without drugs, period. Does that make sense?
You and I have talked about this, and the news every single week is, oh, this new weight loss pill is in trials, or this new glutide, and I forget, what is it? Livaglutide is the other one now.
Oh, there's glutides up the yin yang that's trying to get. I'm not kidding. I was talking to a chemist. And it's like the number of glutides that are coming out. All kinds of names to them. Zer something glutide and this glutide. They're all getting approved at some point.
Liraglutide is the one that I'm thinking of, because that popped up in my stack of stuff this week. And look, the answer is it useful for some people? Yes. But the fact that anyone is looking at this as a first resort and not an absolute last resort is where we need to pay attention to this. And is there an elevated risk of these things when you're on it? Yes. Anytime you're doing something that is not the natural way your body is doing things. Vinny, how did this turn us into almost defending semiglutides?
Well, look, me, I'm always looking for the universal truth. There's a friend of the show, an old friend of mine, that's actually doing casual advertising for semiglutides online. And I'm like, oh boy, I'm looking at that going, don't hurt yourself. Don't. But what can you do? Right? People want to, drugs are easy, right? Until they're not.
Well, and that's kind of the thing that's interesting, because since this post has taken off, this is what everybody is talking about in terms of a side effect. And we seem to forget that the thing you're substantially more at risk of are things like, I don't know, gallbladder and pancreatic diseases, gastrointestinal distress, vomiting, gastroparesis, thyroid issues, psychiatric issues, right? Like all of those are substantially more common. And if you're looking for a reason not to take it, that should be your reason enough not to take it, right? You don't need to go down the route of something that is already rare in the population and try to turn it into something with a misleading headline behind it saying, oh, there's this $1 billion lawsuit, so now you shouldn't take it. Well, there's actually not, right? But there's a million reasons not to do it anyway. And that brings me back to the root cause of why people are looking at this, which is we're not eating the right stuff. And I know you and I talked last week, I think it was, about how, Gen Z is eating more meat. The youngins are eating more meat. Our friends over at NPR put out a survey, and it turns out they're also eating substantially less ultra processed food. And the result of this showed an overall decline in the population, but substantially faster overall decline in the Gen Zers. So it looks like there is some snapback from this, and we realize that we can't just eat whatever we want with impunity. And we're finally starting to head in the right direction.
Yeah, look, one of the things I've always said about carnivores and vegans, the one thing they have in common, the people that are really into it, is they will both tell you to eat whole, real food, right? And if you just started with that, and I think, I'm glad that Gen Z is getting on board, right? I really am. Hopefully not too late. And it makes you wonder if the next, the Greta Thunbergs of the world, that generation, what they're, I feel bad for those. I talk to young kids. They literally think that if you eat any animal protein, you're killing the planet. They've been sold that bill of goods, and they got it loud and clear. Loud and clear. I was talking to neighborhood kids. I like to talk to kids and the whole thing, see what 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 16, same thing. I don't eat meat. Why? It kills the planet, right? And say, where did you get this from? Where did this come from, right? But that's where they are. And you have to meet them where they are. You can't go, you're a fucking idiot. What are you doing? Yeah, no, you can't do that. You have to ask them why they think that way, right? What made you feel this way, right? And a lot of times it's something they learned in school. My teacher told me. And you don't want to tell them, look, your teacher's a flipping idiot, but it makes you wonder, you know, what are these, where did the teacher get it from? Is the teacher a vegan? Yeah. And back in my day, if a teacher walked in and started talking about their personal beliefs in religion, they were gone as a teacher. Now teachers can walk in and do what the hell they want about anything. And it shouldn't be that way.
I thought it was bad when I was in school. So I don't know what education is like in a lot of different states, but I think it may have just been my district as well. 11th grade, we had, instead of like a standard history class, you had like an environmental studies section and then a US policy or something, right? Where they taught us actually how to do taxes. But the first half of that was like an environmental awareness thing. And that teacher had specific sources that you couldn't use for reports, right? Networks she liked and didn't like. And that was 20 years ago, right? And so I can't imagine what it's like now, because even then I thought that was weird. And you see the stuff that people get away with now, and it's mind-boggling to me that we're able to ignore sources that we don't agree with. And if you use a source that I don't agree with, I'm going to fail you for the course just because it doesn't agree with the thing that I think it should agree with. Or there's a chance that it won't. Even if it supports my position, it's from XY, it's from CNN or Fox News or from wherever. So must not be true, even if it agrees with my position. And I think one of the things that I've always appreciated about you is you're open to sources on any side. Like we just had a conversation about something you and I have railed against and said, look, there's a million reasons not to take this thing. This is probably the least of your concerns, right? Because what you're looking for is what is the grain of truth in all of this. And I think if we can come back to what you were just talking about, which is eating real whole food, whether you're doing it from a more vegan perspective, a pescatarian perspective, or from an NSNG perspective, you're going to get 90 to 95% of the way there just doing that. And if you can cut out the crap from your diet, then you don't have to worry nearly as much about leaning on things like GLP-1s or any of the other things that are coming down the pike, right?
So the headline that I sent you read, Hollywood's skinny shot turns deadly. That was the headline, right, that I sent you.
Yeah.
I could have done what most people do. I could have said, you see, look at that. It's deadly. It's deadly. Right. Okay. I didn't do that. I went, okay, it's a headline. I'll give you a better example. Someone put a picture of a turtle with a straw up their nose. I talk about this thing all the time. We don't know how that straw got there. We don't know if someone just stuck the straw in there and said, look what plastic is doing to, sea life, right? We don't know how that straw ended up there. But I was living in California at the time. Now, I'm not a straw user. I don't find there's no reason to use a straw unless you're in a hospital bed. Then you should have that little bendy straw, right? Otherwise, there's no reason for a grown-ass person to use a straw. You never use them at home. You go to a restaurant, you put a straw in and go, what the hell? Well, you're a baby. You got to suck, you can't drink. At any rate, I see in California, they're giving people paper straws, right? They started creating policy based on something we didn't even know was the truth, right? And by the way, even if you're using plastic straws, which I don't agree with, I don't believe in plastics at all. So I'm not defending plastic here. I'm just saying we started making policy based on a photo online, right? Lawmakers who should be doing real policy is now concerned about a fucking sea turtle with a straw up his nose. You've heard me say the same thing back in the 90s. Someone said that they were using a cell phone at a gas pump and the car exploded. And somehow the electric shock or something, static shock from the phone ignited the gas and blew up the gas station. Where's the gas station? We don't know. Is that true? We don't know. But what did all the gas companies do? They put a thing on the pump saying, do not use a phone when you're pumping gas. Now, they knew that it wasn't true, but they didn't care. It was easier for them just to put the sign up there, right? Because some attorney said, put the sign up there. Okay? Now, what the sign should say is don't use a Zippo lighter when you're pumping gas, or don't smoke a cigarette when you're pumping gas. These are things that can actually cause a problem, right? But using a cell phone, if it was really a problem, they would have a security guard out there tackling people if they pulled out a cell phone whenever they started pumping gas. If it was actually a problem. I've said the same thing about the airlines. Remember, is that FFA rules is is it FFA or FAA? What is it?
FAA.
Yeah, FAA.
FFA is the Future Farmers of America.
Yeah. FAA rules, do not use your phone. If you turn on the phone, the plane can crash. We can lose signal, plane can crash. Okay. If that was true, they would be collecting phones at the gate. We have TSA there checking your shoes for a shoe bomb. If we had a real problem with phones, they would be doing that. But they're not. Why? Because it wasn't a problem. How do I know? Because now they will let you have in-flight, blah, blah, blah. When you get up in the air, hey, you can just tune in, make phone calls, do what have you with the phone. Some planes don't even have the little screen on the back of the chair anymore. They tell you just sign in on your computer and we'll pump it right into your computer. Well, what the F happened to the fact that even having a phone in your hand will somehow make the plane fall out of the sky? You see, it wasn't true to begin with. They just hadn't figured out a way to make money on it yet. Once they figured out how to make money, then it all changed. Chris?
Well, so a couple things. When that rule first came out, Vinny, you probably remember this. Do you remember the in-seat telephones they used to have on planes? You could swipe a credit card.
Yeah.
Right? That's the famous story about 9/11, right? How they got the audio recording of Flight 93. The guy called his wife from the plane, swiped his credit card for $9 a minute or whatever it was. Yeah. The Let's Roll guy. And now United, on the back of any of their older planes that they don't have the in-seat TVs on, they have a little thing to flip down so you have your tray table, and then they have a little thing for you to put your phone sideways on and watch videos the whole time on the flight, right? Yeah. Why? Because they charge for Wi-Fi. Yeah. And so, but then you have the story, and you may have seen that this week, and that's why I was shaking my head when you said, if it was really a problem, an Air France flight turned around because somebody lost their phone in between the seats. And there's been all these stories in the news recently about, lithium-ion batteries catching on fire. And the pilot was so worried that the phone was going to overheat that they turned the plane around.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, I'm dead serious.
If it overheated enough, we'd be able to find the phone. It's like we could find it. You see a little smoke or something. Yeah.
But also, phones turn themselves off when they start to overheat.
Yeah.
But whatever. The moral of the story is none of this stuff matters. And the paper straws, and I think you and I have talked about this in the past. When they switched to paper straws, just like the glass bottles for water, are worse than the plastic straws.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's more forever chemicals in paper straws, because if you use actual paper and put it in your Coca-Cola or your water or your iced tea, it just disintegrates.
Right.
So they coat it in forever chemicals.
Right.
And it's not a truly plastic straw. And it's mostly paper. But it's actually worse for you and worse for the environment than a plastic straw. But why do you need a straw? You're an adult. Just drink it.
Yeah. None of it ever made any sense. But it all comes out of something that wasn't real, right? We have a picture of a turtle with a straw in his nose. Right? Before you took the picture, why not just pull the fucking straw out of the turtle's nose and set the turtle free? I don't buy any of it. And I know it makes me sound like an idiot, but come on. right? If these things were real, they would be tackling us at the gas pump. They would be stopping us here and there and everywhere else on airlines. And for God's sake, when you look at something like, what's going on with the drugs, we don't know what's real right now. And you can Google yourself right or wrong. You can eat, everything is, I got that term from my buddy, Adam Carolla. He goes, anyone can Google. We were having dinner one night and he goes, anyone can Google themselves right. I say, oh my God, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I got to use that. I bet you he uses it on his show. So maybe I shouldn't use it. That's his term.
It's true though.
But yeah.
Vinnie, you and I in the past have talked about the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Yeah.
And bringing back the presidential fitness test and all of these kinds of things. Did you see the story that's going around today? I'm curious about your take on this. Did you see he and the Secretary of Defense had a fitness off today?
No, but why you should have told me that, but I didn't have time today. I've been busy all day, but what's going on? So RFK is competing against someone about something. What's going on?
He and Pete Hegseth. I'll see if I can grab a video of it that doesn't have a bunch of ads in it, and I'll shoot that over to Debbie.
Okay.
And if we find one, it'll be right here. But so they went on a timed challenge of 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups, and they tried to do it in under 5 minutes.
Wow, that's difficult.
So I had a couple questions about this. Apparently, Hegseth did it in 5 minutes and 25 seconds.
Okay.
And RFK finished a few seconds after him. So neither of them made the 5 minute mark.
How old is I know RFK is in his 70s. How old is Hegseth?
He is 45.
Okay, so all right. So wow, RFK did pretty good, but I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure I can pull it off. Are we talking proper pull-ups?
I'm sure there was some kipping involved if you're trying to do this as a timed exercise.
Yeah, because if you're doing proper pull-ups, I mean, I would do, let's see, I would do, all right, do the math for me. I would do them a little faster than normal, but let's say I did 15 on my first set. And let's say that I did them faster. I'm not kipping them, but I'm moving faster, right? I'm not doing them to try to get maximum muscle drain, So let's say I'm doing 15. Let's say it takes me 25 seconds. All right. You got that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then I take a minute break, 60-second break. And then I do, let's say I can eke out 12. And then I take another minute break.
Same 25 seconds?
No, 12. Let's say I did that in 20 seconds. And I took another 60-second break. And then let's say I got 10. It took me 18 seconds. All right, so let's see. We got 15 and 12. That's 27. We're at
10,
30.
so you're 37. So you need 13.
All right, so let's say I get 8. Wait another minute. 8, and let's say it takes me 15 seconds. Wait another minute. No, wait 30 seconds and then pop out, 5? So how much time?
How long did it take you to do the 8?
Let's say 15 seconds.
So 45, and then you had 5 left?
Yeah, let's say I just waited. Let's say I waited 20 seconds and pulled off another 5. Right?
In what, 10 seconds?
Yeah. I used high numbers, but use that because it would take a bit, right? So what do you come up with right there?
4.8. So just under 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I didn't do a push-up yet.
Right.
they had to be kipping and everything else. I mean, if I was kipping them, I can wrap out 20, 25, take 30 seconds and wrap out another. They had to be. I need to see the video. Chris, see if you could pull up the video a little bit during the show here. I want to see what they were doing.
Well, so then you have 100 push-ups. How long would it take you to do 100 proper push-ups?
Well, you see, I'm not in good push-up shape anymore. I used to be able to do 100 straight, no problem. And as famously during my last chemo last summer, I got on the floor and I did, was it 4 or 5, something like that, and I was exhausted. Recently, at the end of a push workout, I was able to do 25 of them at the end of going to failure on bench, incline bench, shoulder press, and dips. I went to failure in all of those. I went, let me just do one set and see. I got like 25, 26. So fresh, I could probably do 40 right now. I could do 40 fresh, take 60 seconds, probably do 25. So that's 65, take 60 seconds, maybe 25 again. Yeah, I don't know. It would take a lot longer than what they did. Now, if they were just doing nasty ass push-ups, see, that's my problem. I'm doing slow military style push-ups, flat as a board. They couldn't have been doing that. No way in hell. I need to see the video. I demand the video.
I'm trying to find one that's not.
If you could just find if you could find a piece of them doing the pull-ups and a piece of them doing the push-ups, I need to know what they were doing, because doing these things strict military style, there's no effing way they were doing it.
Let's see if it's going to play a bunch of ads in front of it or not.
While Chris is doing that, we already did an ad. Sorry.
Yeah, they're running a 30-second ad in front of it.
Oh, wow.
All right.
You got it?
Yeah.
Here we go. So, folks, if you want to see the video, you could go to our YouTube video of the show and check it out. Here we go.
So this is part of it.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Oh, and these are the push-ups? Okay.
Those are like half. Those are like half push-ups.
Not even half. All right. So, all right, folks, they weren't doing kips, but they were doing like, I'm going to show one of my arms. I'm going to put one arm in the camera. Okay. They were doing this. They weren't going all the way out. They weren't coming all the way down. They weren't even, if Chris, we could say they were doing quarter pull-ups, but that's being generous. And we can say they were doing quarter push-ups, and that's being even, when they were doing the push-ups, they both looked like monkeys trying to fuck a watermelon. It was just the most ridiculous looking thing I'd ever seen.
Now, the thing that's interesting is most of the other guys there are doing full pull-ups.
Go back to it. I want to see the other guys. I was just concentrating on those two idiots, but I want to see what's going on now. All right. So
that guy's doing some pretty good pull-ups. That girl's doing some pretty good pull-ups.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing some guys in the background, some people doing full. Look here. All right. So let me. I'm glad that they're doing it. I'm glad that someone's talking about fitness. So please don't misunderstand me here. But I'm sitting here thinking I'm going to be doing full ass pull-ups. Like if you're going for the record, like when what's his name? Stay hard. What was the guy? When Goggins was going for like the pull-up record, you got someone standing there making sure your arm is going straight and you're pulling straight down. Okay, that's what I thought they were doing. And I'm sitting here
Vinnie,
going,
how are you supposed to carry the boats if you're not doing full pull-ups?
I'm sitting here going, how do these guys do that? Because I'm in pretty good shape. Okay, I could do what they just did. Right now, I just came from the gym an hour ago. I can get on my pull-up bar right now and do it both. I could get everything in under 5 minutes. And I don't feel like I'm even in shape for that. Right? That being said, I'm glad that these guys are out there doing this. And I'm glad that they're bringing back the presidential physical fitness test. I'm glad for all of it. I'm elated that this is happening.
The reason I wanted to bring this up to you is because I wanted to ask the specific question of why 5 minutes? Like if you could do 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups, that's a pretty good workout, regardless of the amount of time you're doing it in.
Oh yeah.
If
Oh, yeah.
you're doing it the real way.
Yeah.
Right. So make that your goal, and yeah, time it, but don't set a random goal of 5 minutes. And I don't know if there's a special meaning behind that or what, but if you're gonna do it, take the time to do it right, and you're gonna see the results from it. Right. You're doing the right things. You're just doing it for the wrong reason in this case.
I shouldn't even be bagging on these two guys because they're out there doing it, right? They're getting this done, something that no one else since his uncle was in office is trying to do something, right? I'm happy for that. I'm happy. The problem I have is, no, I don't have a problem. I'm thinking through it in real time. I wanted to say I have a problem that they're not doing it right. No one's going to look at it. They're just going to go, oh my God, they could do that in 5 minutes. I want to do it in 5 minutes. So I just hope that enough people do it right. I want to see people get back in shape. Is that such a horrible thing? And you go, Vinnie, what does it matter to you? That's what I get from my relatives all the time. Why do you care? I care because as a country, if we keep getting physically weaker, I mean, we're already breaking under the weight of our own weight. Our healthcare system is fucking broken. And people talk about the high cost. I can't afford insurance. I can't afford to go to the doctor. I can't afford. It's because it's broken. And the reason it's broken is because everybody is sick based on the fact that we're unhealthy. We're not getting exercise. We're not eating right. Trochalazian was on the show the other day saying that he's seeing people now on 19 and 20 drugs. I looked up the national average. I don't think I talked about it on the show. It finally got to me. I said, let me just go look up the national average. The national average is 8. 8 drugs for adults. So let me do the math for you. I'm on 0, and there are people like me on 0. Chris, how many drugs are you on? 0. So we're both at 0, but there are people on 20. So you see, that's how you get to an average of 8, right? There's some people like us and there's other people at 20. So you get to an average. The bottom line, and I know the average should be 10, but you get what I'm saying. People are on more and more drugs, and this is not a good thing. It's just not.
Vinny, the average 20 to 49-year-old is on 2 to 3 prescriptions.
That's nuts. That's when you're supposed to be the healthiest, right? That's crazy.
That's insanity.
I had a woman at the gym the other, because everyone at the gym has now figured out what I do and the whole thing. And this woman came up to me and she was talking to me and she goes, hey, I heard you talking about medications and the whole thing. I said, yeah. She goes, does it count as 0 if I'm taking 3? And she was in her 50s. She's a grandmother. She goes, I'm on 3 different hormones. Does that count as 3? I'm like sitting there going, I'm afraid it does. I get it, right? You want to feel better. And, I get that. I just had Dr. Laura Buchanan on the show talking about women and hormones. I get it, right? I get why people do this stuff. And I'm not saying you're a bad person for doing it, but you can't tell me you're taking 3 drugs and wondering if that counts as being on 3 drugs. Yes, that counts. Every chemical counts. Sorry. Just the way it is.
Wait, so you're saying glutides count? Peptides count? Proteins count?
Yeah.
Anything that you're not consuming in the way of food counts? So
anything they take anything they take and they add HCI to it, then it becomes a drug. is molecularly is changed. It becomes a drug, and that counts as a drug. Sorry.
So
Right?
moral of the story, Vinny: 50 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, noble goal, but do it the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
They said one of the Marines apparently did it in under 3 minutes, and I'm curious how if
I
he
like
did it the right way or not.
because, like I said, these two guys when they were doing the push-ups, they did look like a monkey fucking a football. But I'm glad they're doing it, right? And look, folks, I'm still out there. I'm not that busy. Well, I'm kind of busy, but I would give my time to this country for free. I don't care if the president's a Republican, a Democrat, I'm in the middle of the road. I don't care. I don't care about Republicans. I don't care about Democrats. I don't care about the right or the left. I care about us. I care about Americans, and I'm willing to give my time to change the world if I can, right? I don't have that much time left. And I would like to do some good before I go. Because God only knows I have a stepdaughter, and at some point she's going to have kids. And I would love to leave the place better than where I found it. And I know that it would be narcissistic if I thought I can do it. But if we all took that attitude, if we all said, let's leave this place better when we leave than when we found it, if we all do it, then we can have a better world. We can all die happy and go, you know what? We did something. We didn't worry about a straw up the nose of anything. We didn't worry about cutting our phones off at the gas pump. We didn't care about any of it. But we left the place better than we found it. And that's all we can ask, Chris. Right? You got a short story over there. That's good. Go on. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think we should end on that, man. That's pretty good.
That's all I'm doing here. I'm not trying to do anything else. Right? That's it. Long and short of it. Folks, Chris, are we any closer on getting the workout videos together? Have you spoken to the editor, Sean?
Other than what he told me Friday? No.
It's Monday when we're recording this, the 18th. Can you please communicate with him to see where he is?
Yep.
I need to see something back this week. Chris, I need something back this week, please.
Yep. I shot him a note this morning. I just haven't heard anything back yet.
I need to know what's doing. Okay. What else we got? And once we have those videos ready, we will open the VIP to let anyone in so that they could get those videos for free within the VIP. So Chris, am I the worst businessman ever? We got like 1,000 people waiting to be in the VIP, and I'm willing to give them all this workout for free if all 1,000 show up.
No, I think that's a sweetener. I think that makes you a decent business guy. You're saying, look, I want to do this right. I want to give you something when you join. It's going to be there.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. VinnieTortorich.com/VIP. Go check it out right now. We all go to Amazon. Before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com. Click through the banner. Puts a little coal on the fire, gets my train down the track. I wish I can do it. They won't let me do it because I'm an influencer over at Amazon. But I can't use my own name. You guys can, but I can't. Did you know that, Chris?
Yeah, you can't use your own link.
Yeah, I can't use my own link. I wanted to buy some nail clippers the other night, and I couldn't go. I have to go through Serena's thing to go through because they won't let me go through. To buy some simple nail clippers, I need to trim my nails. Sad, but you guys can do it. You can help out this podcast. So, on behalf of Chris Shaffer, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living, and let's do it with Billy Gibbons.